What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Rustbelt Rundown. It is Monday, September 29th, and I am so excited to be with you here tonight. Week 4 in the books, theme of the night, who's rising and who's stuck. We got a lot of teams that we want to rip through and go through. Unfortunately, Paul Adamczak not able to join us tonight as he is taking care of some personal business. He'll be back in the coming weeks, but in his replacement, you know, this is no what do they call that? The all-state backup quarterback or the backup player. We got Coach Wayne Bradford in the studio with us tonight. There's no backup here, my friend. You're just part of the rotation, and I am blessed to just pod with you tonight, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Nick. Thanks for having me on. So got my Seattle Seahawks shirt on. So, one of my teams is trending in the right direction, as we'll talk about later, and the other one.
That's right.
That's enough.
That's right. We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that for now. Well, I appreciate, after the Seahawks beat the Steelers that you left that shirt at home that night, left it in the cupboard. So as my Steelers heart was reeling that weekend, I appreciate you not driving the needle in there.
No worries.
But no, we got a lot of good stuff we want to get into. Like I said, it was a weekend of survival and setbacks in the Rust Belt. Steelers and Bills found a way to win, while the Browns and Penn State really kind of stumbled in familiar frustrations. But first, we want to get into some news because there's some stuff that happened over the weekend that we absolutely need to get into. All right. First, Giants rookie upset. Listen, I thought this was a lot of fun. Rookie quarterback Jackson Dart leading the Giants to a much-needed win here. 21-18 upset over the previously unbeaten Chargers in his first career start, throwing and running for touchdowns all over the place. I know he got banged up in this one, maybe a little bit of a concussion issue happening in the weeks coming forward. But, Coach, did Jackson Dart just announce himself as the Giants' future quarterback?
Yeah, I think he did. We talked about him, in the offseason around the draft about how athletic he was and how Lane Kiffin developed quarterbacks. The kid's got a swagger, played in the SEC. So you take Scattaboo and you take Dart, man, and you got a little air of confidence there and swag, and something that is needed in New York. And it's hard for West Coast teams to travel to the East Coast and play, and it's hard for the East Coast teams to travel to the West Coast and play. That time difference, is a tough thing in the NFL.
Yeah, no, I think, the Chargers were on a tear so far at the start of the season. They've been a lot of fun to watch. They're a great team. And we had talked about last week or the week before how the Giants defense has been playing really well and the offense has been schemed up. So it'll be curious to kind of see how they move forward. Unfortunately, Malik Neighbors is out for the season with a torn ACL, so that's going to hurt the rookie's ceiling there a little bit. But yeah, I like what you said there. The swagger of him and Bo Scattaboo, that's going to be fun to watch as the season progresses. All right, last night, the Packers and Cowboys played to a 40-40 tie, the first time in NFL history to end with that score. Okay, I know this is a hot-button issue if you're on X at any point in time, but in your opinion, should the NFL finally eliminate ties, or do games like this add to the chaos and fun of the season?
I think it adds to the chaos and fun. Player safety is very important. And these guys have been playing for 3.5 hours. They each have an opportunity, to win. There's not much more you can do until you get gimmicky, right? You don't want to get into, like the college playoff where, you get to overtime 3 and your 2-point conversion plays after, and get to 6, 7, 8, 9 overtimes. I don't think that's good for anyone in the league. So I think the fantasy people and the ties, and at the end of the year, now you're already setting it up for what's that wild card going to look like, right? You're going to have this oddity out here, which really makes it interesting at the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I'm on the fence with this one. At one point it's like, especially now that they're playing 17 games, having that tie I think can really be interesting as you get to the playoff seedings. But you're right. I don't want to see 6, 7, 8 different overtimes. I like the new format better than the old one. That's for sure. So maybe that's still a little bit of a middle ground there, but yeah. Coach, this one's a little close to home for you. Ravens injury scare as Lamar Jackson seemed to tweak his hamstring in that loss. There was talk, I think Harbaugh come out and said they don't really know what's happening for next week yet. Even if he could, like, if the game was close, they said he wouldn't have come back in that game. So if Lamar misses time, can the Ravens be competitive in what is a crazy AFC North right now?
Doesn't matter who they have at quarterback. They're awful on defense. They have no identity. It's embarrassing to watch as a fan, as a defensive guy. There's no structure to the defense. There's no edge rush. There's no contain. There's no alley. There's no run support. It's embarrassing to watch, and they don't even compete anymore. So I turned it off after he threw the first pick, I just even can't bear to watch it. There's no leadership. There's no alpha male. Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, they're probably going crazy right now. When you bring in as a legend of the game the week before, Michael Pierce, who's the worst looking guy ever and had one interception thrown right to him when he dropped for 2 yards, and that's your legend of the game, we've fallen. We have
that legend well is getting a little dry.
Yeah, and so it's very disappointing, and I don't think it matters who's at quarterback. I think they're in disarray. Harbaugh is a great coach. He's won 1,000 times more games than I have. He's got great character, but I just think he's lost the team. You watch him, there's no emotion.
Yeah.
The team plays flat. Zach Orr might be a great person, but he's lost. There's no fire. When you're a defensive coordinator, you got to be out of your mind.
Sure.
Speaking from personal experience.
I've seen you be out of mind on the sidelines.
And it's hard to play defense, and you better be violent, and you better be sudden, and you better have a chip on your shoulder. And I don't see that. I don't even – are the Ravens playing with 11? Because Malik Starks, I don't even know if he's on the field, and he's an All-American. Roquan Smith has done nothing.
Yeah.
Michael Green from, we're going to rush the passer. No, we're going to drop him to the hook to curl and try to confuse everybody. So I am really, really disappointed when I physically sit there and watch them. There's nothing positive to say.
I should have sent you a text on Sunday. I saw the meltdown happening live on Facebook or X when you were tweeting out or posting out about the game. I could watch you in real time because let's be honest, nobody imagined the Ravens being at 1-3 and third in the division right now. I mean, it's just things are even before, like you said, before the hamstring, things are not looking great in Baltimore.
And he had, he's tremendous. And he's played lights out, but he's taken 14 sacks. He's held the ball too long. And I go back to this. They've tried to make him a pocket guy and change the identity and prove to everybody in the world that they made the right decision when he held out.
Yeah.
Let him get into the pistol and get into the diamond and run your offense.
Yeah.
He's not a pocket quarterback. Yes, he'll make some great plays with his feet. But 7 sacks in a week, that's not what NFL quarterbacks do. No. And, I mean, whether it's him running around like crazy or the offensive line, I mean, Henry isn't getting the holes that he got to even in the first couple games. So it'll be curious to see, I don't know, how they bounce back. I missed they picked up Cooper Rush, though. I kind of like him, as a backup quarterback. He's got some wheels, but he also has some smarts, played well in his time in Dallas. So it'll be curious to see how they can bounce back. 2 more quick ones. I don't know where you sit on the tush push ban, but Philadelphia unveiled a fake tush push. I can't even get the words out. A fake tush push to beat the Bucs 31-25, keeping defenses guessing. I mean, even the broadcast was like, "Oh, here we go. Here's another tush push. Here's another touchdown," and they turn around and hand it off to Saquon, who just wheels it out to the corner of the end zone. So, has the Eagles' creativity now with the tush push made it unstoppable, or do you think defenses will eventually catch up? How do you stop this play? I don't think you can. I don't like it. I don't like any time now that you can push the running back in a system. And you can talk about fairness and all. Obviously, the game is geared towards offense, right? You cannot do anything defensively. You can't have contact after 5 yards. You can't hit the quarterback.
Yeah.
You can't do anything defensively to help yourself. And now, not only do you make the penalties in the offense's favor, now you allow them to assist. So let's say I hold the running back up and 4 of my guys push him 10 yards backwards.
Yeah.
Shouldn't he be marked 10 yards backwards?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. There's forward progress. So number one, you can't stop it, I don't think, if you execute it well. And number two, it's not rugby.
Yes.
If you want to play rugby, go play rugby.
Yeah.
Or go play Australian rules. So I'm not in favor, of pushing lining up and having your quarterback and having a 300-pound guy push him. I don't know if that's what football really is.
No, I can't. I don't disagree with you there. And I mean, the illegal formation stuff, and they're jumping early. It's a mess. They're not calling it consistently, which makes it even worse. But I do appreciate how Nick Sirianni was like, you know what? Let's line it up like this, and let's just hand it off to Saquon, just to like, again, add another wrinkle to that play. Because I mean, now you're not going to try and push everybody up the middle. You're going to have to try and, okay, is it going to be a fake? It's kind of like when the run pass option first started being a thing. Yeah. Nobody knew what to do with it. And right. I think, that now that they're adding that extra little wrinkle, it's going to be curious. Coach, I put this one last because I'm really curious to see, your mindset into this, because this is a part of the game that I don't really know what's the right or the wrong or the gray area that's kind of in this. And I'm talking about San Francisco, D.C., Robert Saleh accused Jacksonville of legal sign stealing, sparking a heated post-game exchange with Jags coach Liam Cohen over the weekend. And obviously when you hear sign stealing, you think of things like Patriots Spygate, or you think of Michigan, who, ends up with the suspensions this year and things like that. Is there such a thing as legal sign stealing, and is it part of the game?
I take notes the entire pregame.
Sure.
When I'm out there. And if I see a formation that I haven't seen prior, I make sure I write it down and go and tell the kids.
Right.
I stand at the 50-yard line and I listen for checks and calls. We've played teams that have called everything to line of scrimmage, and I've picked up all the signals in pregame. We played Tiffin one time, and every time they set a car, it was a screen. So, cars were screens.
Yeah.
Snakes were runs. I mean, it was like, so I had all the guys on the sideline. So, if I don't consider that to be cheating or anything, I'm out there and you're yelling it out and barking it out. Everybody looks. We trained all of our kids to see, hey, the guy in the green hat is the signal caller.
Right.
You know what I mean? And, everybody uses the baseball bat, and that's smash. That's the hitch in the corner out. So when you see baseball bat, you tell smash. So
right.
I think everybody's looking for a competitive advantage. I don't believe that's cheating. I think that is scouting and working your tail off and, and being observant and understanding. I mean, you're going to understand formations and checks. And,
right.
I'm sure, those guys are so smart and have watched so much film.
Yeah.
You can't hide anything. I get a kick out of when they do this the whole time.
I know what you mean. But no, I thought the same thing. I'm thinking, okay, if you notice something in game, pre-game, in your tape or whatever it might be, that's why you watch tape. That's why you grind. That's why you're doing those pregame things. Now, if you're flying a drone overhead and you're, watching practice, that's a whole other story. But I mean, they teach you that in Little League. You're watching the third base coach. If he touched his watch, he's going to steal. You better be ready to pick that guy off. So it's not legal sign stealing. It's part of the strategy. You don't like it, change your signs. That's where I'm at.
And I think Saleh's just pissed off that he got his ass kicked. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a prideful guy, and they play great defense, and so he took exception to that, because they didn't play well.
Yep. No, 100%. Well, I'm glad you're on tonight because I wanted to pick your brain on that one. For me, it's just part of the game. So. All right, that brings us to the end of the news. Again, if you missed any of that, make sure you go back to the Gem City Sports Network on YouTube, X, anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, whatever. It'll post immediately following this stream, so make sure you go check that out. Also, get in the conversation tonight. We're going to be talking about Steelers, Browns, Bills, Penn State. Throw those comments in, and we want to bring you on and be able to share your thoughts as we unpack this as well. And lastly, make sure you head on over to YouTube, Facebook, X, wherever. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can always stay up to date wherever we are and whenever we are, because we're up to 4 shows a week now. This is craziness here at the Gem City Sports Network. It's a lot of fun. So
doing a great job.
Catch us on Mondays. Catch Isaac for some local on Wednesdays. At the record. had their first podcast on Thursday. Excited for the partnership with the Otters. And then, of course, we're doing some high school rapid reactions on Friday as well. All right. Well, from international showdowns to whiteout heartbreak, it was a weekend of statement wins and crushing losses for our Rustbelt football teams. Let's start in Pittsburgh. All right. Heading over to Dublin. Steelers 24, Vikings 21. The Pittsburgh Steelers held off a late rally by the Minnesota Vikings to lock in a 24-21 win at Croke Park in Dublin, the first regular season NFL game ever played in Ireland. I thought it was interesting. Pittsburgh actually played a preseason game back there in the 90s. I missed that one growing up. But Pittsburgh built a 24-6 lead behind Aaron Rodgers' efficient passing, Kenny Gainwell's 2 rushing scores, and a defense that sacked Carson Wentz 6 times and forced 3 turnovers. But Minnesota stormed back with 2 fourth-quarter touchdown drives before Nick Herbig's pressure forced an intentional grounding play, sealing the Steelers' victory in front of 74,512 fans. Coach, what is your key storyline coming out of this Pittsburgh game? Did they hit the right moment? Are they starting to figure this thing out, or did they just get a little lucky?
The Steelers are +7 through 4 weeks, okay, and tied for first now in sacks. Boom. Now, if I give you the rest of the statistics, if you closed your eyes and I said, let me read these to you. If you were 28th in total offense, 25th in passing offense, 31st in rushing defense, and 29th in total defense, would you tell me you're 3-1?
No.
Those are the rankings for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, my God.
They are 28th in total offense, 25th in passing offense, 31st in rushing offense, and 29th in total defense. However, they are +7, and they have 14 sacks.
That's enough. I guess that's enough. You know? I mean, Wentz threw for over 300 yards. I got the stat line here. He threw for 350 and 2 touchdowns. But when you're picked twice and you're causing those sacks, I mean, that's a good recipe to win. I saw this too. It was Next Gen Stats had this one. Aaron Rodgers he recorded an average time to throw of 2.17 seconds across 22 passes. That's his quickest average time to throw in a game since 2016. They're playing quick ball, and it is working for a guy like DK Metcalf. Metcalf finished with 5 catches for 126 and, I mean, a beautiful 80-yard touchdown score. I don't know. I'm kind of curious about what this offense looks like. I mean, let me put it this way. Did the win show the Steelers' offense finally finding that balance between Rodgers, Metcalf, and a run game? Or, I mean, you're a Flores guy, I'm a Flores guy. Was it more about the Vikings' defensive struggle?
Yeah, I think that, you really are playing with fire when you blitz Rodgers because just what you said, 2.17, right? And the guy's tremendous. I mean, he's probably the best ever at getting it out quick. And so you're going to roll the dice, and that's the way you play. And, so I think it's also, him having familiarity with the Vikings and Flores and his time there, right? This is not his first rodeo going against Flores. So he understands the system, knows where the pressure is coming from. So I think it was just kind of the perfect storm for great time for Rodgers, to be able to be in week 4 and kind of get a rhythm with these guys. So this particular game was probably perfect where it fit in the schedule for them.
They're 3-1 heading into the bye. Are they AFC North contenders, or are we still waiting to see them beat a top-tier opponent?
I think they'll win the division because I think, as I told you, when the sun was setting over Lake Erie, that the AFC North would be the worst division in football. And if the Bengals lose tonight, you're going to be 3-1, 2-2, 1-3, 1-3. You got no Joe Burrow. I mean, you got no Lamar Jackson. So, I think the Steelers, will win the division. I think the division is going to be the worst division outside of the Steelers in the NFL. So they'll have an easy path to the playoffs.
When you said that at 8 Great Tuesdays, I'm like, how many drinks has he had? Wayne's usually pretty good.
Zero.
But it was zero. It was zero. And you were absolutely right. I mean, they sit atop the division at 3-1. the metrics aren't there. It's not figured out. You know, I think you see signs of brilliance. And this was the first game that really the offense and the defense were both working together. And I think that's what I've been waiting to see is, you know, in the first game against the Jets, the offense was there. In the game against the Seahawks, the defense kind of showed up and fell apart there at the end. You had some special teams gaffes that were there. The Patriots, defense showed up again. This was the first time I think the offense and defense showed up. The red flags for me are still that offensive line. The offensive line is still, you know, Rodgers was all over the place running around. Luckily, they have a quarterback like Rodgers who can get the ball out quick, but who can also process that mentally very quickly as well. And Gainwell surprised me. I kind of made fun of him a few weeks ago as not being a lead back, but he filled in great, almost hit 100 yards as a fill-in starter. Maybe he earned a little bit bigger of a role when Jaylen Warren returns. I don't know. The Steelers are interesting to me. I guess we'll leave it at that. I'm not really sure what I believe. You know, should we put much stock in Rodgers' clean performance, or I don't know, is it the maybe the Vikings had too much Guinness the night before? I don't know. But it is unusual to see them on top of the division. I think you're right. I think the Cincinnati game tonight will be interesting. The Burrow loss is big. If Lamar's out for a couple weeks, I mean, sometimes you're 2 to 4 weeks with a hamstring, and he's a rushing quarterback. So let's put it this way. The division is theirs to lose at this point. I wouldn't say they're AFC North contenders because, like you said, I think that they're there. But, man, it'll be curious to see. When they come back, I think they have a very good 2 games. So they take the bye. They come back in week 6, home against the Browns, away at Cincinnati, both winnable games. And then you got Sunday Night Football against the Packers, which will be, I think, a big test for them. So we'll see where they are in a few weeks. All right, let's pause and thank our sponsors along the way. Today's episode is brought to you by Rebich Investments. Listen, I've talked about these guys for weeks, and I will continue talking about them for weeks because Rebich Investments is all about keeping financial guidance simple. Whether you're just getting started with your first investment or planning for retirement, Rebich Investments is here to help you cut through the noise and focus on what really matters, your financial future. Their team makes it easy to understand your options and build a plan that works for you. For more information, visit www.rebichinvestments.com. That's www.rebichinvestments.com, or give them a call at 814-734-3433. 814-734-3433. Tell them Nick from Rustbelt Rundown, Gem City Sports Network, sent you. All right, moving on from Pittsburgh, let's go to Buffalo.
Let's go, Buffalo.
All right, Buffalo. Bills 31, Dolphins 19. The Bills survived a sloppy performance to beat the New Orleans Saints 31-19 at Highmark Stadium, improving to a perfect 4-0 on the season. With Buffalo clinging to a 21-19 lead in the fourth quarter, Josh Allen ripped off a 27-yard run and then fouled Dalton Kincaid for a 28-yard touchdown to seal the win. James Cook, another 117-yard 100 rushing yards, and Cole Bishop's interception kept the Bills in control despite 11 penalties and a very shaky second quarter. Coach, Josh Allen bailed the Bills out late, but the offense went ice cold in the second and third quarter. They're 4-0. I feel bad because I'm constantly beating up on the Bills, but I'm still seeing a lot of inconsistency. Should we be concerned about that level of inconsistency in the Bills offense right now?
No, I don't think so. Sometimes you play down to the level of your competition. New Orleans has really struggled.
Yeah.
How prepared were they mentally, for that game? Knowing that they're 0-3, knowing that you're playing a Spencer Rattler, you're being at home. So, there's lots of distractions there. I think it's tough to be that consistent week in and week out. The NFL is a tough league.
Sure.
There's parity there. You look at some of the games, and on the other side of the coin, you're New Orleans, you're fighting for your life, right? You're that junkyard dog that's backed into a corner. You're going to fight for your life. And those guys have pride and so forth. So I think that was probably kind of a trap game that they avoided. It's not a conference game. You're playing New Orleans. They're coming in. You took care of business, and then now you get to breathe a little bit, right? So I think it's hard to play at that elite level for 17 weeks. There's going to be some dips.
No, it's they're not playing perfect football, which nobody is in week 4 at this point. I don't know. What was your biggest takeaway sitting down and watching this game?
James Cook, they're number 1 in rushing yards. He continues to produce, so if you run the football, and play great defense, they're 10th in total defense, 9th in sacks. So again, they're really leaning on the offense right now. I think you can kind of do that the first few weeks of the season while your defense progresses, right? You got some new faces on defense. They're working a bunch of different guys in. The veterans are on offense,
Sure.
So the offense is in and the offense is up to speed. And defensively, they're still trying to find their identity, right? You got some new guys in there, and how do those puzzle pieces fit?
No, I think it's a good point, and I think that finding the puzzle pieces is a key to this too. And I think it's what's made me nervous about Buffalo this whole time is you have, the passing offense is still suspect to me, right? And I mean, I think they have good receivers. I like Shakir. I like Coleman. They need to get Kincaid more involved. He had 1 reception for 28 yards, which is great because it was a touchdown, but he is so explosive as a pass catcher. And you can't even say in this game, oh, it's because they didn't need to, right? I get it against the Jets. They were up big. They didn't need to. Same with the Dolphins. They didn't need to. But in this game, it was close up until the 4th quarter. So they're doing enough to stay competitive. But then when you're flagged 11 times, you allow 189 rushing yards, and then you're only 3 of 10 on 3rd down. It's kind of like when we were talking about those Steelers metrics where, yes, they got these key metrics in these big places, and that's why they're able to win. And I think you could fill the Bills in on that as well. But that level of inconsistency, they got to figure that out because I can't imagine that that's going to hold up through the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, number 2 in offense, of yards in the NFL, number 6 in passing yards, number 1 in rushing yards. So they're leading all those categories. So you would expect them to be 4-0, where they are from that standpoint. But yeah, definitely, the offense is a strength, and did enough to win yesterday, and probably were anxious to get off the field and get home, and watch the end of the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, seriously. Friend of the show, Jarrett Bailey at JBaileyNFL, he posted this last night, and I thought it was too perfect. I had to share it. He says on X, the Bills are just the Steelers with a superhero at quarterback. They play down to the competition. Head coach no one trusts in big games. The only difference is Josh Allen is there to bail out Buffalo. And I had to sit back and think about that, and I'm like, he's kind of right. Whereas like
they were college teammates.
That's true. That's fair. Maybe they are a little more similar than.
And they coach together, yeah. So they're very similar. I mean, the NFL was about playing great defense and playing it close to the vest a lot of times. This is not college football where you're going to run up and down the field and crush people outside of the Lions maybe last year during the regular season. But when you get to the playoffs, it's typically the team that plays great defense, runs the football. Those are the teams that end up, I mean, Kansas City's offense versus Philadelphia's defense, no contest. It was a defensive win.
Sure.
And that's, outside of the, God bless them, outside of the 4 Super Bowls that Buffalo gave up 45 points every, outside of the Bills and the Chargers when they got crushed by the Redskins and some of those other teams, defenses have really ruled in a Super Bowl.
Yeah. No, that's true. That's true. And I think one of the things, maybe this is another reason they're not passing a whole lot, is that James Cook keeps cooking. He had 117 yards and a touchdown. He is 2nd in the league in rushing right now, only 13 yards behind Jonathan Taylor, who Taylor had just one really huge game. I think inflates that here early in the season. But per Tim Graham of The Athletic, Cook joined O.J. Simpson, Thurman Thomas, and Fred Jackson as the only Bills with 3 straight 100-yard games. He's also scored in 8 straight games, which is a franchise record as well. You don't have to pass the ball a ton if you're getting.
And they didn't want to pay him.
Right.
That's pretty good company. That's pretty good company.
That's where I'm going. The devaluation of the running game is still so mind-boggling to me. I get it, where maybe it's an easier position to plug and play, but when you have a guy like James Cook, who is easily one of the league's most consistent running backs right now, I think, sure, you want to put the cape on Josh Allen as he deserves it, but I think the Bills' offensive MVP through 4 weeks is no doubt James Cook.
I would echo that sentiment. Yeah, they're number 1 in the rushing yards, and he's number 2, in the league. Amen. Keep running the football, man.
Keep
the other offense off. If you want to beat, the teams down the stretch in the AFC Championship, you got to keep them off the field. Ball control.
Yeah. Well, they got a game next week against the Pats. Should be a winnable game. Sunday Night Football, kickoff at 8:20. And then they go from home against the Pats. They go to Atlanta and to Carolina. This team is easily 7-0 by the time.
Yeah, we talked about that in the preseason, although I would say that Atlanta woke up a little bit this week. So, that's a prideful team. Raheem Morris does a good job down there defensively. I wouldn't discount that one if they're on the road down in Atlanta. That could be a tough one.
Do you worry about the Bills' defense at all?
Yeah, I do. I do, because they're undersized. And just schematically, they love to be a cover too high. Tampa 2 team. Yeah. He's a nickel team, a dime team. So. If you're going to play, let's say you're going to play in the AFC, the Chargers, are you going to hold up against that offensive line, in one of those meat grinder games, trying to think of, who else you might be. I don't think Pittsburgh's got an overwhelming offensive line and run game right now. Baltimore's probably not going to make the playoffs, so you don't have to worry about them. So really, is it the LA Chargers? Who else is running the ball? Is it the Indianapolis Colts? So wouldn't it be great to see the Bills and the Colts, 2 old AFC East rivals, in the AFC Championship game? I would love that.
No, it'd be fun. They took a step back this weekend, but I expect good things. I think Shane Steichen's a phenomenal offensive mind. I guess where I was kind of leaning into that a little bit is yes, they could easily be 7-0. I think you pointed out Atlanta, their defense has been playing really well. Drake May in New England, I think, is going to be tough. You like to see the pass defense come alive for Buffalo in this one. Cole Bishop made an incredible interception right when they needed to, but the defense still allowed 200 rushing yards. Drake May can get out. He can run around. I don't know. I think next weekend is going to be a little bit more of a test than I think a lot of people are.
Oh, you don't think Vrabel will be fired up to, to have something up his sleeve, being an old Patriot in that rivalry. So I would say that, this will be a very competitive game, and you'll see the best of New England.
Oh yeah, and they want that win. Vrabel wants that win. Everybody on the team wants that win. I don't know. I guess I'll leave it at this. And Buffalo fans, comment and let me know. You can yell at me all you want. I said this at the beginning of the season. I'm worried about the Bills. And I get it. Allen is Superman. He is going to play well. The defense and the injuries keep piling up. We saw it again over the weekend. How long can Cook and Allen carry them? I don't know. Allen's been carrying them pretty far the last couple of years. So maybe putting my foot in my mouth a little bit, but I'll be curious to see, what it looks like when they finally get to New England here in week 8, I think it is, or something like that. All right, let's jump over to Cleveland. And I beat up on Cleveland a lot, but there's a lot of things that I think we can unpack from this game.
Super Bowl! Super Browns! Yeah!
I always forget about the yeah. Lions 30. I got to cut that. I'm my own worst engineer. I got to cut that out. Lions 34, Browns 10. The Cleveland Browns dropped to 1-3 after a 34-10 loss to the Detroit Lions at Ford Field. Cleveland struck first with an 88-yard touchdown drive capped by rookie Quinshon Judkins. Man, that guy looks great. But turnovers doomed them as Joe Flacco threw 2 interceptions and lost a fumble, directly setting up Detroit scores. Khalif Raymond's 65-yard punt return touchdown in the fourth quarter sealed the rout as Amon-Ra St. Brown's 2 TD grabs highlighted the Lions' offensive firepower. Coach, turnovers continue to tell the story for this game. Joe Flacco commits 3 more, 2 picks and a strip sack that turned into 17 Lions points. It's a broken record at this point, but after you see what happened in New York when they moved to a guy like Jackson Dart, is it time for Kevin Stefanski to seriously consider moving off Joe Flacco for Dillon Gabriel, or does the rookie risk outweigh Flacco's struggles?
No, I think you got to make the move, and I love Joe, right? He's won a Super Bowl in Baltimore, but Cleveland's -6, and to your point, they're number 1 defense in the NFL, giving up 222 yards.
Yeah.
Baltimore's the total opposite. Lamar's having a total meltdown and saying, I'm hurt, and people are saying he's rage quitting. If I'm on Cleveland's defense, I'm about to rage the whole locker room on offense. I'm giving up 222 yards a game in the NFL. Wow. Yeah. Could be on pace to be, that's an unbelievable statistic.
Yeah.
But you're -6. You're -3. You have basically a 100% chance of losing. You have no opportunity to win at -3. So it doesn't matter what you do. So that's the bottom line. Pittsburgh's +7 and 3-1, and Cleveland is -6 and 1-3. Cleveland's number 1 in defense, and Pittsburgh's 29th in total defense, and the opposite is 3-1.
Yeah. Get these guys
Flacco's rated higher than Rodgers statistically. Flacco's 18th and Rodgers is 19th. I mean, when you look at the stats, and if you look at that, that's why you throw them all out except the turnover margin.
Yeah. No, I see what you're saying. I think you're right. And let's stick on the okay, well, let's Well,
how much worse can Gabriel or Shedeur do?
Well, that's where I'm at, right? I was going to move to the defense, but I want to stick with the offense for a second. That's exactly where I'm at. If you throw in Dillon Gabriel, sure, maybe he makes 2 picks and drops a fumble as well. But he's a rookie. Let him figure it out. You know what Joe Flacco is at this point. And I said this the last 2 weeks on this pod. I said the whole point of Stefanski putting in Joe Flacco was because it was safer football. It was more mistake-free football. That's not happening. So if you're going to play mistake football, you might as well give it to Dillon Gabriel and see what he looks like. The rookie risk to me is no higher than what you're putting out there now.
There was a game a few years ago in college. I think it was Louisiana Monroe. They had a left-handed and right-handed quarterback. They played 3 quarterback, put him in the gun, split back, handed it off to the right-hand quarterback, and he would go this way, throw it after that, and then the left-handed quarterback would go this way. It gave the defense fits. Put them both in. One's left-handed, one's right-handed. Run zone read this way and let him throw it. What do you got? What do you got to lose?
Nothing at all.
Nothing.
And that's kind of my point. Cleveland managed just 10 points, marking the 12th time in their last 15 games they failed to top 17 points, a trend Zach Jackson of The Athletic called, quote, comically and consistently bad, end quote. See, Browns fans, it's not just me making fun of you. Your own beat reporters are making fun of you. That's bad. So, bright spot in the backfield, rookie running back Quinshon Judkins rushes 21 for 82 yards and a touchdown. He can anchor that run game. Looks like a young Nick Chubb. I mean, he's a battering ram. He's an offensive highlight. You make the trade for Cam Robinson, now in at left tackle. So you get some veteran stabilization on an offensive line that's already had 4 combinations in 4 games. So I get it. Anchor the run game. But bring in Gabriel. It doesn't make sense to run Flacco out there, and especially because, maybe this is the theme of the show, because the AFC North is wide open right now. It's you still have a shot, especially with that defense that's been playing so well. They're number 1 in the league, allowing 222 and a half yards per game, which you kind of were already alluding to. So,
I mean, Look what Green Bay did on offense last night, and they scored 10 points against Cleveland.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
You know what I mean? When you magnify how good they are.
Right. So what happened in this one then? Because that's kind of what I want to talk about is Yes, they've been lights out, and I get it. Detroit.
Well, the -3, like you said, you can't be put in those bad situations.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know what the turnover margin was in the Packer game. I would say it was probably pretty close. But if you don't turn the ball over and make people drive the football against Cleveland, you're probably not going to score many points. Yep. Same thing happened in Baltimore. They were playing extremely well in defense, and then the fumble, the sack fumble, the interception. I mean, it was 37 whatever, but the defense only gave up 13, 17 legitimate points. So, that's a statistic that, special teams, turnovers, short fields, going right back out there. That was, I think, the difference in that game. And when you're -3 and you're back out there, the offense, they have whatever they want, right? They can throw it, they can run it, they can gimmick it. When you're playing offense against an inept offense like that, you got the whole bag of tricks, because if you throw a pick or you do something dumb,
right,
the other team's not going to score anyway. You know what I mean? And then you put on top of it, then go for it every fourth down and extend drives and those particular things. So I still think Cleveland, has a pretty good defense, and that game was close early until those turnovers magnified.
Well, you take away the 17 points on turnovers, right? And now you're looking, you're looking at a 17-10 game. Let's pretend like they don't exist, right?
Right.
Which is much easier to stomach than 34-10, especially after you just took down Green Bay 13-10. That's enough to keep you in it. Those turnovers are going to continue to cost them, because it's not like, okay, Detroit's offense is electric, right? I mean, you're talking to Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams on the outside, and then you can go to Gibbs or Montgomery, and they're going to 1-2 pound it all the way up and down the field.
And you haven't even talked about Laporta, the tight end.
Right. And they still only total yards 277. It's not like Goff threw for 300 and Gibbs ran for 150. Gibbs 15 carries for 91 yards and a touchdown. But this I thought was a fun key stat for Gibbs too. The I lost it. What did I do with it? There it is. Next gen stats for Lions Browns. Jahmyr Gibbs carried 11 times for 86 yards against loaded boxes, the most rushing yards against loaded boxes by any play. So it's not like they weren't there. Gibbs played well, right? Yeah. So if you're going to lose 17, if you're going to get 17 points against turnovers, and then, Gibbs is playing out of his mind, your offense is giving you no advantage in this game, and you're not going to win any game at this rate.
No,
moving forward,
you're done. -3, you have no chance of winning.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So they are Sunday. They are home against Minnesota, if you can call London home. They are across the pond, facing off against Minnesota. Minnesota, 2 back-to-back overseas games. That's got to be a little tough on the old sleep schedule there. But they'll go over. They'll face Minnesota next week. There, I was looking for their bye. And then they come back. Interesting enough, usually when you go overseas, you have a bye week the following week. Cleveland doesn't. They go over to London. They play Minnesota this weekend. They come back against Pittsburgh, Miami, New England. So it's kind of an up and down schedule here for the next couple weeks. But catch your Brownies over across the pond next week. I don't know. I kind of feel bad for the Browns. Like, I want to see, just put Gabriel in. Just put Dillon Gabriel in. Let them have some fun. Give that fan base something to cheer for. You talked about rage quitting. If not, I think Myles Garrett is rage quitting by week 8 and forcing a trade in week 9. We'll see how that goes. Oh, man. All right. Well, that takes us through the NFL. Let's talk about some college ball. Big game over the weekend in Happy Valley. All right, Penn State, Oregon. Number 6 Oregon outlasted number 3 Penn State 30-24 in double overtime in front of a record whiteout crowd at Beaver Stadium. Drew Allar led the Nittany Lions back from a 14-point fourth quarter deficit with 2 touchdown passes to Devontae Ross, forcing extra time. In overtime, Katron Allen's 4-yard touchdown briefly gave Penn State the lead, but Oregon QB Dante Moore answered with 2 clutch scores, including a 25-yard strike to Gary Bryant Jr. In the second OT, Allar's interception by safety Dylan Thieneman, I had to look that one up, sealed another high-profile loss for James Franklin's squad. Before we get into the coaching stuff with James Franklin and the big game, which is all anybody's talking about, I want to talk about Drew Allar. Drew Allar finished with 137 yards and 2 touchdowns, threw in 42 rushing yards, which is great. We met with T. Frank Carr last week on the show and kind of highlighted expecting to see Allar's legs in this one. But his game-ending interception really kind of defined the night. Does this loss say more about Drew Allar's limitations in big moments?
I don't think so. I think the frustrating thing for me watching, Penn State is James Franklin refuses to take the choke chain off the kid, let him play.
Yeah.
109 yards in the first half or in the first 3 quarters. They didn't throw the ball down the field to those 3 wideouts that there was no creativity the first 45, 50 minutes. And when they got creative and allowed the kid to go, he made some great throws. So, I'm pretty close to this because Mike Yursich is a great friend of mine, and Mike Yursich got fired by James Franklin and was a scapegoat because he couldn't beat Michigan and Ohio State. Well, gosh darn, Mike Yursich isn't there. You're going to fire Colton Necky this year because they're going to lose to Ohio State and lost to Oregon. And so is it Colton Necky's fault now? Or is it your mentality is we're going to win on defense, we're going to win 10-9? You're not. I told all the people at Erie Insurance, all the Penn State fans, you're not going to win a 10-9 game.
No.
And before overtime, that's basically what it was, right? So I just don't understand why they don't throw the ball vertically down the field, use both tailbacks at the same time. Nick Singleton, man, kind of disappeared the second half. He had some good runs, and then it was all Quinshon Allen. But where's the creativity?
Right.
Where's the they have all this creativity against the lower tier teams. Oh, we're going to beat Appy State 50-0, and we're going to beat Old Dominion. You know what I mean? And it's and we're great, and we're disappointed we gave up 3 points on the last play of the game. But when he gets into big games, it's a 1-possession game, and you're not going to win those games against elite teams, And I thought the kid would have been the hero, if the safety doesn't make a tremendous play.
Oh,
you can't blame the kid on that.
No.
But when you let him throw it, he made the throws. But outside of that, you didn't let him do anything. He shovel pass. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything vertically down the field.
No, and you have 2 great receivers. I get it. Last year, you didn't have maybe outside of Tyler Warren a great passing attack, and yes, you have Quinshon Allen and Nick Singleton, probably 2 of the top 5 backs in the league, and you want to run them out. But you have Trevor Payne, you have Ross, you have people in the passing game. Heck, get Singleton and Allen in the passing game, right?
Yeah. They're great. They're both great. Singleton's a fantastic receiver, out of the box.
They have the players to be able to open up this passing offense. And is it Franklin holding it back, or is it Colton Nicky? I think, to your point about the fly in my face, I think that to your point about James Franklin and scapegoating a little bit is Colton Nicky. He'll be a head coach candidate at the end of this year. He was last year. Decided to stay at Penn State.
He didn't have any problem scoring any points at Kansas and being creative at Kansas. And you brought him in. You brought him in here to be creative. I can't imagine that Colton Nicky, and I know him from his time at UB, with Lance and those guys. Both those guys. Mike Yursich are undefeated at Youngstown State outside of a 1A loss. Doing great things at Youngstown in his first year as offense coordinator. Was successful everywhere he went. So here's your next iteration, and who was before Mike, and it's always the offensive coordinator. It's always, they can't get over that hump. Well, outside of that game, against Oregon in the Big Ten championship, when they opened it up all over the place and scored all those points. Yeah. When is the last time that Penn State has scored more than 17 points in a Big Ten team against a Michigan team or an Ohio State team or an Oregon team? I don't see it.
No, And you have no excuses after this year because of the firepower you have. Allar came back. We talked about the receivers. We talked about the running back room. Kotelnicki is a great offensive mind. So,
and you got a big, great athletic offensive line too.
Right.
I mean, you got all the pieces in there to, do lots of different things.
Yeah,
Cousins,
local legend Cooper Cousins got in for a lot.
Get
of
in there on short yardage.
Too.
Extra lineman in was in a bunch the other night. So I
go ahead.
I just don't see, a pro style, throw the ball around offense like Oregon did. Oregon threw the ball around and, spread it around and did some things. So you're going to have to score points. We've talked about it all the time.
Yeah.
It's hard to play defense and Alabama, look at the creativity Alabama showed against Georgia. Put the big old tackle out there. Throw the lateral screen to the big guy. You know what I mean? Get the ball in the perimeter. The Lane Kiffins of the world. Just, getting the ball outside and being able to beat these elite defenses. LSU elite defense, but Ole Miss having those answers in this age. You've got to score points in college and be able to stretch the field vertically. And outside of the one long touchdown pass, I don't know if they had an explosive play. Maybe late in the fourth quarter, I think Singleton had a run and Allen had a run, but up until the fourth quarter, they didn't have an explosive run or pass.
So, from a coaching perspective, he's 4-21, and we never on this show advocate anybody to lose their job. At what point do you go, it's just coincidence versus a questioning maybe has Penn State reached a ceiling under Franklin? It's weird how sometimes these coaches, you get a coach that can't get over the hump. Andy Reid in Philly was like that for a while, would make it, couldn't get through the big game. Well, now we see what he does in Reid. You're seeing people talk about Tomlin in this way. And in college, you see it all the time too. At one point, do you reach your peak or do you go, we have a great coach, we just got to figure this out? Does it become play calling or does it become execution, I guess? I don't know. Pick a lane. I went ways
same thing I said about Harbaugh. James Franklin's won a hell of a lot more games than I have, and I've been fired, so I don't ever want to see anybody get fired because, when Franklin gets fired, he's got tons of money, he's fine, but those 17 assistant coaches and all those families, so you never want, anyone to get fired. I just think there's a cautiousness there that you can't have in those big games. You've got to let it rip. Dan Lanning going for it on every fourth down, letting it rip, giving him the sign that almost jinxed himself. You know what I mean? Letting it rip. I don't know what is holding Franklin. I don't know what's holding anybody back, right? You know what I mean? They're hyper aggressive on defense, blitz, pressure, but not hyper aggressive on offense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So hell, you got a great defense, let it rip. Who cares if you turn it over? You're probably going to get it back. Right. I mean, but
that's
if
the blessing of a good defense.
Yes. Right? Yeah. I mean, go let it rip, and if something happens bad, you're going to throw out those guys that are, 8 NFL guys that are, going to cover everybody, and you're good at every position. But I don't see that mentality, that attack on offense like you see on their defense.
Yeah.
You watch Ohio State play, they're going to attack on offense.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You watch Ole Miss play, they're going to attack on offense. So I don't know if I ever see Penn State in that mode.
Yeah. Nope. I agree. So it'll be curious. We'll see. I mean, it's a long rest of season. There's a lot of things.
Well, they're going to win every other game. They got one game left. They're going to play Ohio State, and he's got to beat Ohio State. And can he do that? So he's going to be 9-2, 10-2, and that's what it's going to be.
Well, yeah, and the committee could look at that and say, okay, yeah, you're 9-2, but you lost to 2 big teams. You're not going to the playoffs at 10-2 with losses to those.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen, this year with everybody else. But obviously, they're going to play in the first round, right? They're going to be on the road, or they're not going to,
Yep.
I don't, to your point, they may even be in a worse shape this year because they're not going to play in the Big Ten championship game. Right. So let's just say that. So let's just say they're going to be the third Big Ten team potentially. Maybe Indiana is the third Big Ten team. I mean, look what they did to Illinois, and then it comes back and beats USC. When you talk about Indiana scoring 63 on Illinois, and then Illinois basically manhandled USC without the punch outs,
right,
and the turnovers going in, they win that game running away. So how good is Indiana?
Oh, yeah, I mean that'll be time to tell. So I mean,
I think that's this week, or does Oregon have a bye? Oregon, Indiana play somewhat soon.
I'll look it up for you. Actually, it's Saturday. It's their next game.
Saturday,
October 11th, so 2 weeks from now.
Yeah,
but
so that's
next game.
That's Oregon's next game. So if you are, old Indiana, I mean, and where is that one going to be played?
I think at Oregon, so that'll be tough.
Okay, that'll be interesting. But I'm gonna tell you what, Indiana is legit.
Cignetti's gonna fire those guys up too for that game.
Oh yeah, and they both have a bye week, so they're coming in. They're coming in healthy. So it should be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, to your point too, Penn State next week at UCLA, Northwestern, Iowa. And then they're at Ohio State, huge game. And then they're home against Indiana, so Indiana might be able to punch their own ticket in that game. But other than that, you're not paying a ranked team. So it's like, I don't know. If they can't beat Ohio State.
And don't count out Iowa, you know what I mean? Going to Iowa and playing is not a – I mean, and Iowa only lost 20-15 to Indiana. So if Indiana's that good, and Iowa State, is a good football team. They're undefeated.
I'll plant my flag here. If they lose one more game this season, they don't make the college football playoff. It's as simple as that. With the way the team is playing, the losses that they have, and how good the Big Ten is right now, they're definitely not going to play in the Big Ten championship if they lose another game, and I don't think that's enough for them to get over. Into the
four Big Ten teams. Let's say Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana, Penn State.
Yep.
And can they beat Indiana?
Not looking good, my friend. We will see a lot of football to be talked about. Before we close for the night, let's jump over. Let's talk about the Monday Night Football games. Right now, we are almost at halftime. Dolphins are up 10-0 on the Jets. So we've seen. I mean, let's be honest. You were better off watching us in this game anyway.
No question.
Who are you picking to win this game of ugliness?
Well, Fields is out, right?
No, Fields is in.
Fields is in. I don't see the Jets coming back from a 10-point deficit after the half. So I think the Dolphins will win. Being ahead.
Yep. Fields.
I love the uniforms. Just wear them all the time. Maybe that's the key.
Fields 8 for 10 for 54 at the half. Tua, 11 for 15 for 115. That's a guy that Miami needs to get going if they want to bounce this thing back. Another winnable division outside of Buffalo. Another winnable division, to stay competitive and sneak into the playoffs. Yeah, I think this is a must-win game. I'm going Miami here too. All right, we talked about the AFC North a lot. That game kicked off a little bit ago. 7:36 left in the first. Bengals up 3-0 already on the Broncos. Who you like in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to take Denver at home. I think they'll get it right. Looks like they just haven't found their way kind of, early in the season, especially after, a breakthrough year last year.
Yeah.
Peyton's done some interesting things this year, play calling and so forth. So, but I really like Bo Nix. I mean, he's a stud. So I'm going to say at home, in the thin air as it gets later in the evening, that the Broncos wear them down.
Well, we're 2 for 2 in this one. I'm going Broncos as well. I think Nix is special. I think this defense is special. And I just think with Cincinnati, sure, I love that offense. You need to get Chase Brown going, not this weekend because he needs to score less than 20 points for me to win my fantasy matchup this week. But I love Higgins, I love Chase, obviously, but just Jake Browning, it's not going to cut it. I said this to Paul last week, and he shooed me away. But if I'm Cincinnati, I'm sending whatever I can for Jameis Winston, and let's get Jameis Winston in this passing attack, throw into Higgins and Jamar Chase. It'll be fireworks in Cincinnati. I don't know if they'll win any games, but it'll be fun to watch.
I would agree 100%.
Oh, well, Coach, it has been fun as always. Really appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us. Doors open for next week, same time, same place.
Hey man, give me a ring. It's going to be a big week for us, heading into the Meadville week. So I might be a little cautious there and spend some more time watching some film. So I might have to get past that one. That's that might be the priority next week.
Hey, listen, that's perfect. I get that, and I would do the same thing if I was you. We'll play it by ear. We'll see how it goes. But appreciate you stepping in for Paul. In a short notice there as well. Hey, those of you out there, thanks for listening. Thanks for following along. Thanks for hanging out with us all evening. We had a bunch of people hanging out on the stream. Make sure you like and subscribe. Follow us every time we go live here on the Gem City Sports Network. Big thanks to Rebich Investments for sponsoring the show and the network. Big thanks to Isaac and the Gem City Sports Network for having us on every Monday night. You can catch us from starting at 7:30 to 8:30 anywhere. X, Facebook, YouTube, wherever. You pick your poison. We'll be there to help fill your need on a Monday night for football. Signing off for the head coach, Wayne Bradford.
Go Cleveland Guardians.
Oh, listen, we already had the Seawolves fall apart in the championship. Not fall apart. They lost a great game. Tigers are falling out. Listen, Cleveland needs
Guardians hope. Are in, though, right?
They're in. Cleveland needs hope. Let's give them hope. Maybe that's
there
the Guardians.
Go. All
right, y'all. That's it. We're done. Have fun.
Take care.